Yeah, that was funny.
I'll call this meeting to order, and I'd like Director Hunt, if you would, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Determination of the quorum.
Mr. President, all 5 directors are here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, public comment. Members of the public may address the board at this time with regard to matters within the board's jurisdiction that are not listed on the agenda. State law prohibits the board of directors from discussing or taking action on items not included on the agenda. Members of the public will have the opportunity for public comment on any item listed on the agenda when it is addressed on the agenda. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. So stated. Thank you, audience.
All one.
Consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda or calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, item number 7, first quarter ending 9/30/18 financial report. Susan?
Do we want to go over it, or I didn't
Well,
actually prepare any slides tonight because we haven't
It's
been
recommended
doing
that
that,
the board
but-
accept and file a financial report reviewed by the Finance Committee on January 9th. I can ask Director Unger if she has any comments. Both she and I attended, but I think there was a large audience or participants from the community, and we were so thankful for that because it's a riveting, exciting meeting.
Go team.
And discussion of the first quarter was no exception. It was exciting and it was thorough, and there was really nothing irregular or unusual in it.
I think I would actually draw attention to the fact that we received our $3 million from our capital improvement bond loan, so that's reflected in the cash flow. It's also reflected in the ending cash balances. Our cash balance increased almost $3 million during the quarter. So in addition, on page 20 of the packet, you have the first of the detailed custodian account. So recall, for Director Reynolds' benefit, that we have established a custodian account for the bond proceeds, and they hold the money on our behalf. The money earns interest, that's our interest, but we send all requests for payment to them, so they validate, all of that sort of stuff. So this provides the detail of where we are with that fund, what we've purchased so far, 4 pieces of equipment totaling over $640,000. We've earned over $9,300 in interest. So, we'll continue to provide this update as we go forward, reflecting what we're spending that money on.
Any
So that's
comment-
kind of the only thing I would say that's irregular in here.
Any comments from the public? No? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
I move that we accept the first quarter ending 9/30/18, the financial report. And if that was something that was of note, certainly, but not alarming.
Yes,
But
right,
it was a
yes.
good of
We're
note.
well aware, yes. I'll second.
All right, motion's made, seconded. All those in favor?
All right.
So moved, so carried. Item number 8.
Joining the Community Water Systems Alliance. We discussed this a couple board meetings ago, meeting before Christmas. And the recommendation is that you direct the general manager to take such actions as are necessary to join the alliance and approve an annual expenditure for 2 years of $5,000 per year to support activities related to the alliance and state legislation. The purpose of the alliance is to augment resources of the California Association of Mutual Water Companies, which will be handling all the fiscal stuff, to include income-limited and disadvantaged communities who are served by well-run and operated water supply agencies in an organized effort to prevent their resources being diverted by the state through the assessment of local taxes or economically infeasible regulations such as chromium-6. Our cost would be $5,000 per year. The charter membership is costing $10,000 per year. One of the charter members is 29 Palms with Ray Kolish, who will be active. If you want to go 10,000, that's fine. My recommendation is 5,000. The other part of the unwritten MOU or agreement is that each of the participating agencies agrees that the general managers will actively support writing letters, and the general manager and the board will actively support going to Sacramento to discuss pertinent legislation with the legislators, or at least contacting your local legislator in Yucca Valley and others. So there will be some need for travel expenses to Sacramento if and when we decide to do that. Page 22 of 26 is a little flyer on what the Community Water Systems Alliance is about. Basically, without saying the word lobbying, it's about affecting legislation. Page 23 of 26 I found particularly interesting. The annual budget for this alliance is projected to be $60,000, which will cover some of the lobbying efforts, as well as some transportation funds available for poorly funded water districts that can't afford to go to Sacramento. And some $6,000 a year, 10% in administrative costs to the California Water, whatever it's called.
Systems Alliance.
No, to the California Association of Mutual Water Companies for the overhead of administering this and taking care of the letters getting out that the Alliance is sending out. So already, as of January, first week in January, Bighorn, Cabazon, Eastern Municipal Water District, East Orange County Water Districts, the Mesa Water District, the north of the river Municipal Water District, Santa Margarita Water District, and 29 Palms Water District have contributed funds from $2,000 to $20,000, and depending on Bighorn and Cabazon's final decision, the Alliance already has $72,000 to $85,000 in the coffers. That money, extra money, will be earmarked for year 2, so potentially our commitment in year 2 might be lessened. The memorandum of understanding is on page 24 through 26. Legal counsel Bill Granito has reviewed it. There are no concerns on his part for us to sign that. And my recommendation is that we join the Alliance. And just as an example of how active they are, they're having, every Tuesday at 4 p.m., they're having conference calls to discuss items of interest. And today at 10 after 5, I received 2 drafts of letters that they're preparing for the group consensus. On one is options for implementation of a statewide low-income water rate assistance program, which gets rid of the water tax as proposed and seeks different ways to fund such an event. And the second one is comments on the framework and tool for evaluating California's progress in achieving the human right to water. So, not only would we benefit from being involved with such things as comments on the water tax, I think the general manager and future general managers and the board would also improve their awareness of some other items in the state that potentially do or potentially do not affect us. So that's my report.
So we need a, is there any public comment? Do we need a motion? I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
We're stronger together. I think it's really important that we do this. So I'll make the motion.
I just wanted to ask, I guess, a question here. I think it's interesting we get to kind of keep tabs on Santa Margarita Water District
Gee, I wonder how many.
and see where they're at. But they put in $20,000. Does that give them more voice?
No, it's not how much money you put in. If you want to be sort of the charter members that will be formulating policy that is then reviewed by all the members, not policy, but comments on legislation.
And I know it's the traveling, to Sacramento. There are the Aqua meetings up north. Is there any chance that they schedule perhaps the Aqua meetings, the Sacramento meeting with legislators? Sometimes those are in Sacramento.
Sometimes the Aqua meetings are in Sacramento.
And just
but
sort of,
I wouldn't see this as connected with Aqua. There
No.
may well be times that the Alliance takes
Timing
a
only.
different stance than Aqua for the smaller agencies. And many times you all know that Aqua's position has not really been to our benefit.
President Johnson, I have a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say I really support this concept. I like the focus on small, well-run districts as well as those that are struggling, that don't have a lot of financial means, getting their voices heard. So I think
And
it's
the
a-
reason that someone like Santa Margarita and Eastern Municipal are participating is they have a history of assisting smaller water companies directly adjacent to them so that they're not required by the state to take on their problems.
Be absorbed into them
Mhm.
and,
The best offense.
And I'm sure that they don't want to be absorbed either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the smaller ones
Yeah.
do not wish to be absorbed, and the larger ones would just as soon deal with their own problems than having to install miles of main line to connect up to a smaller water company that is adjacent.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to interrupt the meeting.
May I get you to go to the podium, please, Mr. Marquez?
Love your shoes. Al Marquez, Gus Basin, ratepayer. I hate to interrupt the meeting, but for some reason, this board never continues to, or they continue to violate the Brown Act. You have a person here that on the board made a motion, then you're discussing it without acting on that motion. And it constantly happens all the time. This is not a social gathering. This is a business gathering. You're supposed to be handling the business of the ratepayers and the owners of this water district. And it's beyond me to understand what you people are doing. Thank you.
Not a Brown Act issue.
All right, we'll continue on. Where were we?
I think we'll be entertaining
I have a motion on the floor.
Motion.
There's a second.
You made the motion, did you not?
No, did I?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I guess I can't second
I'll
my own
second
motion.
it.
All right.
I thought Gary made it.
I'll vote on it.
All right, I have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. And is there now any discussion, which I think is protocol? Okay? Just, we'll do Robert's Rules of Order if that's, okay. Gary, yes. I have one little question, if I may. And I think this is a good thing, too. I think, we've spent a lot of money lobbying and have had, some success, and this is a good thing when we get the agencies together. If we find, however, after the first year, are we obliged then to continue on? No, okay,
You
perfect.
can leave at any time.
Yes, sir. I thought that's what you said
I don't think
last
you
time.
get your money back in the first year.
Money back. All right. I have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved, so carried. I have the general counsel report, and it doesn't look like we have general counsel, so I'm assuming that's a no.
And that's correct?
General Manager's Report, number 10.
We may have the shortest meeting in history.
So,
I'm
the general manager's report, as we discussed before Christmas, actually it was, I don't know when it was. We need to decide on a date for the administrative code workshop. And if you do it during the day, we're here, except for every other Friday. And it would be for the staff and the board, and the public. It would be it'd be a special board meeting. So I just need to know when y'all want to do it.
Could you possibly put some dates out there for us, and then, do you want it today or right now?
No, that's fine if you can't, if you don't want to.
Could you give us some
I will.
optimum dates that you think the staff would be ready to roll, and we can see if we can accommodate that?
Sure.
Is that
Didn't we
fair
talk
with the
about
board?
a weekend day?
Yeah, Kurt was saying though, I think, go ahead.
I would prefer that we do it during the week,
As do I.
but, whatever the board wants to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that Friday good, that it's, like, the office is closed?
Fridays are not good from the standpoint that regardless of the Friday you choose, half of the 4 people that will be there are off, but they are exempt employees and we can require them to come in.
Well,
But,
if the board's amenable to that, then we'll look at something during the week, and you'll,
Monday through Thursday during the week.
yes, sir?
For me, Mondays usually aren't good, assuming that the furlough will eventually end. So my only request
Yeah,
would
let's do it
be
next Monday.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, or Thursday.
All right, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
I like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday as well.
Okay, second, I'll send something out soon. Ad hoc committee for the general manager's review and contract.
I would like to propose to the board that Director Unger and myself do the general manager's review and performance eval. We've done it for the last several times. I think we should be fairly well dialed in. If there's any person that would like to volunteer or to replace us, if not, can I go ahead and do that? Or do I need a motion? No?
Just a point.
All right, so are you, is
I'm
that
good.
fair with the board? Then that's what we
So,
have.
Tony,
All right.
let's go volunteer.
We'll have some dates coming, Kurt or Rebecca, somewhere.
Soon.
Fair enough? Yes, soon.
And just the other 2 things I wanted to mention is, you've all agreed that the water treatment strategy needs to be reviewed. It's coming on 10 years old. We met with Mike Metz today, Mr. Ban, Ms. Greer, and Mrs. Greer, excuse me, and me. And Mike Metz had about an hour-and-a-half meeting talking about the history of the wastewater treatment strategy, where we thought we needed to look. And Mike is going to be sending us a recommendation on how he would go about doing it and what it might cost. The first wastewater treatment strategy costs $58,000, and he can do it, he thinks, for significantly less than that. It's going to be a significant rewrite, in my opinion. We've learned a lot in 10 years. We happen to have somebody on staff that was at the ground level at the start of the actual sewage treatment plant process. He's well-versed in sewer philosophy.
Who might that be?
That might be Mr. Ban. Who apparently is well-versed in concrete laying, too, because he's not here tonight. Okay, so I just wanted the board to know that that proposal's coming. It's not in the budget for up through June 30th, but I recommend to the board that we get this estimated cost, and that we amend the budget and fund it. And it's going to require some staff time to get updated data on water use. To Mike, I think we need to consider speaking with USGS on their reports and their findings from this year on the monitoring wells at JTUZ 12. So That's coming up. And then Susan, Sarah, Beverly, Kathleen, and I, yesterday, went to 29 Palms. Gary Sturdivant was the facilitator of an emergency response planning session with 29 Palms and Oakdale Water District, who Gary Sturdivant is also working with. Oakdale is down in LA County, close to
Whittier.
Whittier, which is close to Oakdale. I have no idea where they both are. But this scenario was, well, first of all, Mr. Ray Kolish demonstrated, or showed us the emergency response equipment that they have. They have 2 satellite phones, we have 0 satellite phones. So if you consider the quake that will occur eventually, and the cell towers are out, there's no, the scenario was cell towers are out, no electricity. Highway 247, Highway 62, east and west, and the road through the park are all closed. And no electricity, no phones, cell phones are out, sat phones are in. One of the concerns was, it's great to have this outstanding staff that you all have, I have, we have, community has. They all have families, and their first priority is making sure that their families are safe. And in a catastrophic event, we can do some things to assist them being available to return to work promptly. And one of those is they've issued each one of the employees an emergency pack that has all kinds of convenient emergency equipment in it. And 3 days supply of dehydrated food for 4 people. And we also need to review our existing stash of emergency water, canned water, and our food, and our cots, and our sleeping bags. I don't think we have any tents.
No.
So anyway, we're going to pursue freshening that up and improving it. And then just the overall emphasis was not so much how are we going to respond, just that, but how we're going to interface with each other. We formed a unified command so that the 3 water districts were all working together. And even though the people from Oakdale were here, they had the same emergency, and so how are they going to communicate with their crew? Interestingly, if I have these numbers right, Susan will remember better than I. There are 8 people in the Oakdale Water District.
Yes,
They have 2.6 square miles.
yes.
They have 25,000
Customers.
customers.
Yep.
We don't want to live there,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
think about
Stacking
that.
them or
And they
what?
get their water, they get their water from another water company. They used to be combined, and then the private owner sold off this one and sold off that one. So they have a very good working relationship with their sister water agency. They're just completing their emergency response plan. 29 Palms has theirs. Ours is in the process of being completed. In fact, it's sitting on my desk with the first draft from Gary that he gave to us at the meeting. And just overall, it was eye-opening when you think about these roads aren't opening, and there is no gasoline, and the natural gas pipeline's ruptured, and there's fires in the street. There are buildings on fire in downtown Joshua Tree. And in this scenario, all 3 C tanks and the B tank were offline. So we had the A tank to serve, which currently serves about 280 homes, to serve the entire community. So there's a lot of planning that we need to do, a lot of preparation, a lot of practice, and we'll keep you abreast of what's going on. So that was a fun time.
Thank you.
And interfacing with Cal OES and Cal Warren, and understanding the reporting requirements, just the reporting requirements in an emergency like that. to get FEMA funding, we are, just to run the overhead team we are understaffed. Not that we need to go out and hire a bunch of people, but we are going to need to order a bunch of people in through Cal Warren, in cooperation with Cal OES, Northern California, Arizona. Of course, Interstate 10 won't be functional either. The bridges will collapse, and they'll be dealing with fires and sheer mayhem in the Coachella Valley. The railroad system will be out. The gas lines will be empty. It'll be fun. So that's what we've been doing, in part, and that's the end of my report.
Any other questions from the directors?
You have anything?
Could I ask a status update on well 14?
Well, 14 continues to be problematic. You can go 7 days of testing and all your total coliform are absent, and you test on the 8th day and it pops. So you try it again and all the total coliform are absent, but the heterotrophic plate counts, which had been from 6 to 17, pop up to 750. So Mark and the crew are discussing, and Lynch Construction, not construction, Lynch, the well company, is being consulted, and we may continue to sample, or we may start discussing not 4 log, but 12 log. But also considering that sometime the state is going to come back with a chromium-6 MCL. And if we're going to do something at well 14 to make it work, and 12 log is a surefire bet, designing it and having it ready so that when chromium-6 regulations require us to treat the water, that we've already constructed in such a way that we can just plug and play. And we're also, amazingly, put in a request for how much it would cost to pull the equipment in well 11 and video it. $8,000. Unheard of low price from Lynch Construction. So.
Questions, comments from the public? Not, then we'll move on to director's comments, reports, and meetings attended. We'll start with public outreach. Ms. Kathleen.
Thank you. I was at that training yesterday, or Tuesday. It was an eye-opener, and I've been through some eye-openers. But what was fun for me is I didn't do public information. I got to be logistics, and I just ordered truckloads of water. It was such a free feeling. I know it doesn't work that way, though, in real life. Randy Mays was public information. We decided at the end, we'll go back to what we do. Anyway, I wanted to report on the United Way Low Income Assistance Program, their updated statistics. Total of 43 applications have been processed for assistance. We left off in November with, I believe, 41-ish. Maybe it was 42. They had none apply in December. And he indicated that 2 were completed in January. So we're at 43. It's close. It's a close bet, Mr. Sauer, whether we make it.
I think we can take some actions that will make you win that bet, so.
Okay. That which will probably come to light and be discussed at the Legislative and Public Information Committee meeting, which will be held. It is a date that we moved because of all the holidays. It will be next week, Wednesday morning, 9:30 here. It is open to the public. We'll be discussing probably this and a lot about Water Education Day, what's ramping up, and a few other things. So I hope to see you all there, and thank you very much. That's it.
Yes. Okay.
Stacy?
I will ask Director Unger to give an update, if she will. We've sort of already gone through the finance, but just crossing that off. Do you have any comments on the January 9th meeting we had?
Oh, you know what, I didn't bring my notes. We discussed a lot of things. I forget everything that was on there, Bob, I'm sorry. But there will be another Finance Committee meeting on, what does it look like here, February?
13.
The 13th. So please come. I think at that time we'll have a check register to go through. We didn't have one last time, so there's always a lot of chewing and chawing on that one.
Okay. Water Resources, January 9th, Director Luckman.
I'm going to let Director Hunt do that.
Yes.
Yeah, so staff presented a discussion of an ongoing fee study that Assistant General Manager Greer is heading up, and they will have upcoming recommendations for potential fee changes, renaming, additions, and reordering. And Director Luckman and I both appreciated the efforts of staff to review the fee structure and amounts. If these fees don't keep a pace with costs, then the ratepayers not using these services have to absorb the difference. So it's a myriad of fees. You know, some of the ones that folks are most familiar with are turning on or transferring service, for example. So some of these fees, according to Assistant General Manager Greer, have not been revisited for quite a long time. I'll just say that, for years in some cases. So it's time for us to revisit those and reset the fees. And we're also, what's being considered is tying the fee increases to something like the Consumer Price Index so that they go up over time with inflation and don't fall behind over time because folks get busy and can't review whether or not the fee is appropriate. Assistant General Manager Band gave an update on the shop remodel, which, and then afterwards Director Leckman and I toured the site, and it's very nearly complete. It looks fantastic. It's very nicely laid out and designed. We found out that Mark did that himself using the Visio program, one of the Microsoft programs. And it should provide great support for water operations. And thanks to the efforts of staff, the cost to the district is far less than if we had contracted the entire project out. That's my report.
Good report.
Mojave Water Agency, also on the 10th, is Director Hunt.
Good meeting, as always. I think it's great that we attend those monthly, both for us and for, our relationship with Mojave Water Agency, but also just because it's a great opportunity to find out what's going on in the bigger world of water out there with our wholesaler. One of the main items that would be of interest for this group and our ratepayers is water rates for fiscal year 2019-2020. Gary Bird, who's with accounting staff there, gave the presentation, and he discussed the elements that go into the cost, which are of course, the California Department of Water Resources delivery charge, the Mojave Water Agency's reliability assessment. They look at their debt service. They look at meeting their board goals, including keeping rate increases smooth so they don't wildly fluctuate. That means they have a goal of keeping rate increases within 5 to 10% year over year. They actually have a rate stabilization fund to help smooth out rates and keep them from fluctuating too greatly from year to year. And of course, local power rates also go into that cost. The energy cost portion is affected by energy policy. The state has a policy to make sure the state's electricity grid is 100% carbon-free by 2045. I think that's a very laudable goal, but it does cost money. According to Gary Bird, that could result in a $40 to $80 million cost increase over time to do that. But I believe that's statewide. Also, energy policy, the state's cap and trade policy affects it. And energy transmission costs have been rising at what he called an unsustainable rate, and I would maybe call it unpredictable. There are a lot of power lines that will need to be built and other facilities to bring renewable energy into the grid and redirect it. And new costs for that keep coming in, and there are rising rates from DWR in order to cover those costs. So I, for one, am glad that we've kind of accelerated the pace of our groundwater recharge, because obviously costs are going to be going up. Roughly, those changes to energy policy statewide will mean an increase of a total of $150 million in costs for all those energy policy implementation, for a system-wide average of $60 per acre foot over time, an increase. We also, I actually talked, I did a follow-up with Gary today, and we talked about other things, like if we had another incident like the Oroville dam spillway, those costs get passed along to ratepayers. So look at how much it's raining this year. Look how unpredictable the climate is becoming. So I think that we have to be very cognizant of both in terms of the availability of water in the future and its costs. So the good news is the price per acre foot for 1819 1718 was a total of $569 per acre foot, and for 1819 it went up 8%, which is because they had to rebuild their reserve fund to keep the rates from fluctuating too wildly. But it's a total of $610, and then for 1920 it will go back down. They predict it's preliminary right now to 4% increase, which is their more typical increase, and that'll be a total of $632, and that's the rate from DWR plus the cost of the energy transmission to get it to us. So that's preliminary. The board will take action on February 19th on that proposed rate of $632 per acre foot. So they also discussed construction water rates, and Mojave Water Agency doesn't sell a lot of construction water, but they do sell some. And apparently in some areas there's a problem with Caltrans and others purchasing water from private parties, in some cases taking the water outside of agency boundaries to use it, like for I-40 and I-15. And apparently the Baja sub-area in the northeast part of the agency area, it's particularly a problem there. And I believe that's part of our representative Jim Ventura's area. And so that Baja area is generally in the area of the I-15 and I-40 east of Barstow. And it's particularly problematic because it's already in significant overdraft there. And the MWA is not getting funds from these private cells that it could use to mitigate groundwater withdrawals and taking water outside the sub-area. There's quite a bit of discussion, and Jim Ventura in particular voiced concerns about the Baja sub-area, which is apparently in his turf, as I said, and they discussed potential actions which can be taken to address the issue. What I really like about Jim, and he does that for us, is he's very vigilant, and he's a real advocate for his areas. And it was really obvious in that meeting that he's looking out for the folks in other areas other than ours. So real quickly, action items, they considered and adopted the employee pay schedule, just like we just did. And like with us, it's taken before the board for review and approval. It is currently 2% per year. It's based on merit, and it's not automatic. The board approved the schedule. And then they also had an item for considering awarding the OSTI, I think that's how it's pronounced, Recharge Feasibility Study.
Yeah.
Westy. to Todd groundwater, and there was a presentation and considerable discussion about that issue. The agency's in the process of developing a number of groundwater recharge facilities. They, from east to west respectively, they're Deep Creek, Oro Grande Wash, and Victorville, and how do you pronounce it?
Westy?
Westy, okay.
Yeah, I know.
It's Oeste. So it's the westernmost location in the and it's in the feasibility study stage, and preliminary investigations have detected a clay layer underground that has called into question the ability of recharge water to reach the aquifer in significant amounts. So it could potentially reach the clay layer and flow laterally away. And so a request was made for significant funds to do further investigations necessary to determine if the study site will ultimately be a viable recharge location. The board ultimately approved the request, but they are concerned about the amount of money that's going in that direction. Under manager's reports, my final thing, the operations superintendent, Mike Simpson, said that they have been focused on their CIP for many years. It sounds like what we're about to embark on. And they're now starting to focus on operations and maintenance of facilities to be more proactive, to have procedures in place, etc. He said they're facing some real challenges, but have great people to meet them.
Thank you. Very thorough.
Great, thank you.
Can I make a comment about, we go to Mojave Water Agencies every meeting, and right now, when Jim Ventura lives in Joshua Tree and is on their board, it's really not terribly important. Well, it's important, but it's really important as time goes on and Jim goes off that board know who we are. They know every single director on this board, and when we go to them for something, they're very receptive, and I think part of that is because we're at every single meeting, and that's the reason we do it, is great report, but that isn't why we're there. We're there so that the board knows us and is receptive when we go to them for money, and that's really important, that we keep doing that.
Yeah, and I doubt that directors call Mike very often from other water agencies to ask follow-up questions like that. I got that feeling that he was kind of pleased that we were interested in paying attention, and hopefully the word gets around within the agency.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Citizens Advisory Committee, yes.
Thank you. My name is Gail Austin, and I'm representing the Citizens Advisory Committee. We had a meeting last night, and Karen Tracy was elected as committee chair and Tom Kane as vice chair. We received staff reports from Mark Van and Susan Greer for information only, and we received a general manager report. Our next meeting is March 12th at 6 p.m. And then we adjourned, and we want to thank Director Luckman and Hund for attending. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
They all wore really cool hats, many of them.
Yes.
And Gail is sporting on this.
What was yours?
I didn't have one. If I had, I would have taken it off because there's no way it would have matched the level of
No
theirs.
competition.
All right, future director meetings and training opportunities. We have the Mojave Water Agency on January 24th, and that'll be Vice President Unger.
Right.
And Mojave Water Agency Technical Advisory Committee, February 7th, Director Luckman.
Yep.
Finance Committee, here it is, February 13th, it's myself and Director Unger. Please be here, it's very riveting, exciting, and you'll know where your money's going. Water Resources and Operations, February 13th, and that's Director Luckman and Director Hund. And I guess at this time I'll take just director comments. If you have anything you'd like to say, we'll just go down the row. If you have anything for the good of the order.
Sure, real quickly, I just wanted to comment on the emergency preparedness for the earthquake that Kurt spoke about, and I'd really like to urge everyone here tonight and anyone that might be listening or watch the YouTube later on to really think hard about, if they don't already have a good supply of water and canned food and perhaps a camp stove with a little propane canisters. Don't cook with that inside, but you can cook outside on your patio. To have a way of boiling water and cooking food and have a supply on hand, because when the big one comes, and it's going to be as significant as the general manager described. The latest data says that San Andreas quake could be up to an 8.2 and could have impacts all the way up to Paso Robles.
Sure.
So things are going to be a mess for a long time after the quake, and we have to be prepared to weather it here in the rural areas, because we're not going to be the first place that the first responders come to. There are going to be bigger problems in other places. That's it. Thank you.
Right, and you know, Kathleen, you've been driving this message constantly. Be prepared. It's coming. And that little water district by Whittier, was it Oak something?
Oakdale?
Oakdale. They had a huge Whittier quake. That was a big quake. So this whole area is quake prone. So good advice.
Okay.
It was really nice that both the Finance and Water Resources meeting, because 4 of the 5 directors were there for both meetings. So we're getting educated on everything, so very good.
Thank you. Director Reynolds.
I have nothing.
I'd like to say welcome to Director Reynolds. Happy 2019 to everyone. And if there are no other comments or anything for the good of the order, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Second? Oh, you second.
Oh, I thought you were second.
No, I second. All, got it? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, guys.